Ancient battles were often full of tension, strategy, and bloodshed. But every once in a while, there was something different. Here are the top 10 weirdest battles in history. Number 10, the Emu War. Australia, November 1932. For farmers in Western Australia, it was a nightmare. Their crops were being ravaged by hordes of birds, specifically emus. These massive, fast, flightless birds were destroying their farms. And when the farmers requested help from the government, they received an unexpected response. The military was sent in with orders to kill the emus. Surely this wouldn't be hard. After all, these were just birds. But the military soon realized that emus were not easy to defeat. They were too fast and too smart, easily dodging the soldiers and their bullets. In fact, the birds would even steal the soldiers' guns and ammunition. 2 days into the battle, they realized that the birds had the upper hand. So the military retreated, leaving the emus victorious. The war was over. The final score? 1 emu defeated, 0 humans defeated. Today, the few surviving veterans of the battle receive annual pensions, and the story has become a legend in Australia. This event has also been referred to as the Great Emu War. Number 9. The War of the Oaken Bucket. The year 1325, the Italian rivals Modena and Bologna have been feuding for years. But in 1325, things got ridiculous. People of Bologna accused the people of Modena of stealing a wooden bucket. Now, don't underestimate the power of the wooden bucket. Back then, these buckets were used to transport water, and it was essential for life. Without it, the people of Bologna could die of thirst. So naturally, they went to war with Modena to get it back. What followed was a battle of epic proportions. Tens of thousands of men fought across northern Italy. Eventually, Modena won, keeping the bucket for themselves. And today, the bucket is still on display in Modena, mocking the people of Bologna. Number 8, the Battle of Karensips, November 1788, Austria. At the height of the Ottoman-Hungarian War, 3,000 soldiers from the Imperial Austrian Army were marching through Serbia when suddenly, disaster struck. A group of drunken scouts opened fire on their fellow soldiers, thinking they were under attack by Ottomans. This triggered a panic. Soldiers fell victim to friendly fire, mistakenly attacking their own ranks. Soon, hundreds of men lay dead, victims of mistaken identity. To add insult to injury, 2 days after the incident, the actual enemy, the Ottoman Turks, approached the camp to find the carnage and no Austrians to fight. The Turks set up camp right next to the dead bodies, using them as human shields. The next day, the Austrians came to collect the bodies and found that many of them were missing body parts, most likely chopped up by the Ottomans for firewood. Number 7, the Pig War, June 1859. An American and a British subject were hunting on an uninhabited island near San Juan Island in Washington state. Suddenly, the American spotted a stray pig rooting around in the underbrush. He thought it looked valuable, so he shot it and took it back to his camp. The problem, the pig belonged to the British Hudson Bay Company. Tensions rose, and soon the British built Fort Langley on the island, while the Americans built Fort Casey nearby. Both sides sent troops to reinforce their forts, and soon thousands of soldiers from both countries were gathered on the tiny island, ready to fight over a pig. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, and the conflict was resolved peacefully. Although some historians argue that the pig may have been the unwitting cause of the war. Number 6, the Football War, October 1969. El Salvador and Honduras met on the soccer pitch in a qualifying match for the 1970 FIFA World Cup. The match ended in a 1-1 tie, but tensions boiled over when the Salvadoran team accused the Hondurans of cheating. As the teams left the field, fights broke out between the fans. News of the riots spread throughout both countries, and soon the two governments were exchanging hostile statements. Then on November 3rd, El Salvador invaded Honduras, starting a 4-day war that ended with 6,000 refugees and over 200 deaths. The war may not have been solely caused by the soccer match, but it was certainly a contributing factor. Number 5, Battle of the Golden Spurs, July 11, 1302, the Flemish county of Flanders. French King Philip IV was marching on the city of Bruges when he heard that a group of Flemish rebels had taken up arms against him. So he sent in his elite cavalry force to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. The French knights charged into battle wearing heavy armor and riding on horseback. The rebels, meanwhile, were mostly peasants who were armed with pikes and other makeshift weapons. But despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the Flemish held their ground. They stood their ground and stabbed at the horses' legs until the knights were bogged down in the mud. Of the 2,000 French cavalrymen, only a few hundred made it out alive. The rest were killed, captured, or stuck in the mud. In fact, the battlefield was covered in golden spurs that had fallen off the dead knights. Number 4, the Battle of the Windmill. December 1838, a group of Canadian rebels known as the Patriot War attempted to invade British Canada. They sought support from American volunteers, but when the British caught wind of the plan, they sent troops to stop them. The rebels were forced to retreat to a windmill, where they fortified themselves and defended themselves against the British for several days. Eventually, they ran out of food and surrendered. Number 3, the Battle of Los Angeles. February 1942, the Japanese had just attacked Pearl Harbor and tensions were high. Then one night, searchlights swept across the sky above Los Angeles. People looked up in terror as they saw explosions and burning debris falling from the sky. What was happening? The military quickly announced that they were under attack by Japanese aircraft. Over 1,400 shells were fired that night, but at nothing because it turned out to be a false alarm. The military never did figure out what those mysterious lights were, but it was probably just weather balloons. Number 2, the Battle of Zapalino. September 1325. It's time for a rematch. Remember those feuding Italians from before? They're at it again. This time, though, the battle wasn't over a bucket, but the memory of a bucket. The Modenese were celebrating the anniversary of the Battle of the Golden Bucket. When the Bologna showed up to ruin the party, they battled each other again in a violent clash of swords and shields. While neither side claimed victory, the damage done to the town of Zapalino was severe. Houses were burned, shops were looted. All in all, it was a pretty costly affair. Number 1, Operation Paul Bunyan. August 1976. Things were tense in Korea. On August 18th, 3 North Korean soldiers approached a U.S. lieutenant and asked to speak to him in private. They told him that one of their comrades had strayed into the demilitarized zone and cut down a tree owned by the South Koreans. The lieutenant, along with 100 U.S. soldiers, 20 tanks, and 6 helicopters, flew to the scene to investigate. And that tree removal mission became one of the strangest operations of the war. The North Koreans complained that they felt threatened by the show of force, but the lieutenant explained that they had done nothing wrong and they should feel very lucky that he hadn't ordered them to open fire. He also gave them a warning that if any of them trespassed into the South again, he would personally chop down another tree. And to prove his point, he proceeded to do exactly that.